Welcome, everybody, to Black and Gold Weekly, a weekly Boston Bruins show here on YouTube in partnership with Black and Gold Productions. I am your host, John, and we are on episode 45 of the show. We've got a lot to go over this week in the world of the Boston Bruins, but I want to start off by saying I hope each and every one of you had a fantastic Thanksgiving last week. And that's why there wasn't an episode last week. I got pretty busy with the holiday and wasn't able to get an episode out. But we are back this week, episode 45. We got 2 weeks of Bruins news and games to cover. And boy, is there a lot to talk about. So we're going to be talking about Brad Marchand suspension. We're going to be talking about Jake DeBrusk trade request. We're going to be talking about the last 2 weeks of Bruins games, and we'll be previewing the upcoming week of Bruins action as well at the end of the show. So there's a lot to get into here. It's going to be a good one. Unfortunately, though, the Bruins continue to really frustrate. But that gives us a lot to talk about here on this week's episode. Before we get into the meat of it, I do want to thank Mark Allred and the entire team at Black and Gold Productions for all of their support. This show is in partnership with BNG and would not be happening without them. So a big, big thank you to Mark and everybody at Black and Gold Productions. Also want to draw your attention, as always, to the links in the description of the video. It's getting close to the holiday season, Christmas coming up, Hanukkah, a lot of holidays going on here. And if you are in the market for any sort of Boston Bruins apparel, NHL apparel from any other team, a college apparel, whatever college you want to rep, we have 3 links in the description of the video for all of those things. A great assortment, a great array of different products. Can be branded with all sorts of different teams, whatever you want to rep. It would really mean a lot if you could check those out. And obviously would make a great gift for the hockey fan in your life coming up this holiday season. So we'd love to have you check out those links in the description. Again, we've got Boston Bruins stuff. That's the first link. We've got NHL stuff from any team in the second link, and NCAA college apparel as well for the third link. So would really mean a lot if you guys could check that out. But let's get into the meat of it here, because we have a lot to go over. I just want to start by kind of reviewing the last couple weeks of games here. Last episode of this show came on November 19th. So we've got quite a few games to talk about as we get into it here, starting with Saturday, November 20th, where the Boston Bruins defeated the Philadelphia Flyers by a score of 5-2. So let's take a look at this game here and see how it went. Obviously, a good one for the Bruins, and it was a 5-2 win to get the Bruins up to 9-5 on the season. They had 44 shots on goal. They won 51% of the faceoffs. 0 for 3 on the power play, which wasn't great, but obviously didn't hurt them throughout the game. 17 penalty minutes, 33 hits. They actually out-hit the Flyers, 33-29. 9 block shots. It was overall a pretty good game here for the Bruins. And when we look back on it, the Boston opened the scoring. Tomas Nosek in the first period scored the only goal of the first period late in the opening frame. He gets his second of the season, and the Bruins went to the locker room with a 1-0 lead. Then in the second period, it was an explosion of scoring compared to the first, as we had 4 total goals, 2 for each team in the second period. Derek Forbort scored 30 seconds in for the Bruins, getting his 3rd goal of the season to put them up 2-0. However, Derek Brassard answered very, very quickly for the Philadelphia Flyers, and then Brassard scored again later in the second, which tied the game up at 2. And things were getting a little worrisome here as the Bruins blew a 2-0 lead. However, noted goal scorer now, Derek Forbort, and I say that jokingly because I've never seen Derek Forbort score like this before at all in his career. But noted goal scorer Derek Forbort scores again for the Bruins late in the second to put them up 3-2 in the game. His second goal of the game, is 4th of the season, and the Bruins did not look back. They took a lead into the third period, and then Craig Smith made it 4-2 Boston early in the third, and then David Pastrnak iced the game with the Bruins' 5th goal, and that was it. 5-2 win for Boston, and Craig Smith had a 2-point night. Jake DeBrusk had a 2-point night. We're going to be talking a lot about him later in the show. Pastrnak had a 2-point night. Forbort had the 2-point night. Zaboro got on the score sheet with an assist. Nosek got on there with a goal. Bleed had an assist. Marchand, Howla on the score sheet. Lazar on the score sheet. Coyle with another assist. So this was overall a very strong game for the Bruins, and they skated away with a 5-2 win. This is, again, the Bruins team that we want to see. Also in goal, can't forget about the goaltenders. Linus Ullmark had a very, very strong performance here, stopping 29 out of 31 shots against, a .935 save percentage, and a W in the win column for Ullmark. So that Saturday game was a really good one. Then the Bruins had to play on Sunday in a back-to-back situation at home against the Calgary Flames. This was the Bruins team that we don't want to see this season. It's unbelievable how up and down this team is, literally on a game-to-game basis. How much things can change night in and night out for this Bruins team. Sunday night game, second half of a back-to-back with travel, so that obviously makes it a tough situation. But nonetheless, you got to play better than this. A 4-0 loss to the Calgary Flames on home ice, dropping to 9-6 on the season at this point. They got outshot 32-28. They did win in the faceoff dot 53% of the time, but another 0 on the power play. 0 for 3 again. They did out-hit the Flames 37-28. The Flames out-blocked them. And this number right here, 12 giveaways for the Bruins in this game. The Flames only had 6. And turnovers continue to be a problem for the Boston Bruins. But Johnny Gaudreau, Johnny Hockey, opened the scoring in the first period for Calgary early on in the first period. They go up 1-0, and they never looked back the rest of the way. They take the 1-0 lead into the second period. Noah Hanifin, another former Boston College Eagle. Gaudreau and Hanifin, both former BC players. He scores in the second period to give Calgary a 2-0 lead. And then in the third period, Andrew Mangiapane and Michael Backlund both score, and Calgary skates away with a 4-0 win. Boston doesn't even get on the scoreboard, and this was just not a good performance from the Bruins. Obviously, zeros across the board offensively. Pastrnak, Marchand, and Bergeron were -2, so their top line did not have a good night. Smith, Coyle, Foligno, all -1. Lazar, Hall, DeBrusk, Bleed, Nosek, all -1. On the back end, Forbort was -2. McAvoy was -3. Not what you want to see out of Chucky there. Grzelcyk was -1. Swayman in goal, gave up all 4 goals, obviously. Stopped 28 out of 32 shots. Wasn't his best game of the season either, to say the least. And this was the bad Boston Bruins. So that was a weekend that's pretty much encapsulated the entire Bruins season at this point. Good Boston Bruins on Saturday, bad Boston Bruins on Sunday, and they split the weekend with 1 win and 1 loss. Boston comes back on November 24th. They have a road game against the Buffalo Sabres. And once again, we saw the good Boston Bruins as they dominate the Buffalo Sabres. 5-1 win, 4 of those goals coming in the first period. Bruins outshot the Sabres 47-25, dominated in the faceoff circle at almost 70%. Power play finally got it in gear and went 2 for 3 on the power play. 27 hits to Buffalo's 18, 10 block shots, and this time they were the better teams as far as giveaways are concerned. Only 4 giveaways for the Bruins, and the Sabres doubled them up and had 8. So much better with regards to puck management in this one for Boston. It was actually Buffalo who opened the scoring here as Kyle Okposo put one home for the Sabres to put them up 1-0. But that kind of woke up the Bruins, and then Patrice Bergeron tied the game at 1 shortly thereafter. And then Charlie Coyle scored to make it 2-1. David Pastrnak put home a power play goal to make it 3-1. Mike Riley got himself on the score sheet with a late first period goal to make it 4-1 Boston, and from that point on, there was no looking back. Second period, there wasn't any scoring, but the Bruins continued to dominate play. And then in the third period, Taylor Hall got himself a power play goal to put the Bruins up 5-1, and that would be your final score. Coyle had a 2-point night. Foligno had a 2-point night. Bergeron had a 2-point night. Pastrnak had a 2-point night. A few defensemen getting on the score sheet as well. A couple other forwards chipped in with 1-point nights. It was just overall a very solid performance from the Boston Bruins. And then Jeremy Swayman in goal didn't have to do a whole lot, but did stop 24 out of 25 shots against. And that was a good bounce-back performance from Swayman after the game before in Calgary that certainly wasn't as good. So there we have it, the good Boston Bruins showing up again. We move on now to the annual Black Friday game, November 26th, the day after Thanksgiving, afternoon game on home ice against the New York Rangers. And unfortunately, the bad Boston Bruins show up again. Although it wasn't the bad Boston Bruins for the entire game, it was really just a horrible third period that sunk the Bruins in this one. But they end up losing 5-2, getting dominated in the third by New York. And the Rangers skate away with a big road win. Boston outshot the Rangers actually 36-31. Won in the faceoff dot as well, 57% in the faceoff dot. Once again, though, the power play comes up empty, 0 for 3 on the power play. They were out-hit by the Rangers 23-21. Almost no blocked shots for the Bruins in this one, just 4. And that did not help. A lot of the Rangers shots able to get through that they were getting off, which Bruins, you want to see a better block shot number than that. Also with that, the Rangers blocked 17 of the Bruins shot attempts. So Boston was actually having trouble getting their shots actually through to the goaltender. And that helped the Rangers in this one a lot. Giveaways actually weren't bad. The Bruins only had 5 to the Rangers 10. But obviously that didn't really play a role in how the final score turned out. But again, this wasn't an all-bad game for the Bruins. It was just a really bad third period. Craig Smith opened the scoring for Boston as they took a 1-0 lead with about 5 minutes to go in the first period. However, the Bruins committed a cardinal sin. They gave up a goal to Ryan Strome with just 6 seconds remaining in the first period. And rather than taking the 1-0 lead into the intermission, the Rangers were able to tie it up 1-1 with just a few seconds left in the first. And man, this is something that I've talked about in past episodes, something that you cannot do in hockey. Is allow goals in the first minute of a period or allow goals in the last minute of a period. Those are cardinal sins that will make you lose hockey games. And Boston could have had a lead after 1 here, but they give up the goal with 6 seconds left. Not a goal that they should have given up. And that tied the game up at 1 heading into the intermission. Second period, Bruins take a lead again. Patrice Bergeron scores. And he puts the Bruins up 2-1 in the second period. And here was an opportunity, again, for the Bruins to have a lead, hold a lead, maybe even extend a lead if we can get something good going here. And what do? Well, they give up the tying goal again. So it's every time the Bruins score, the Rangers are allowed to answer. And Dryden Hunt scores for the Rangers. He ties the game up at 2, and that is how the second period ends. Second period comes to a close with the game tied up 2-2. Now, despite giving up the Strome goal at the end of the first, and despite allowing the Rangers to answer both of your goals, the Bruins are still in a pretty good spot here. It's a 2-2 game, anybody's game at this point. You're playing pretty decent. It was a fairly even game for the first 2 periods. Actually, Boston dominated shots on goal in the first period. I don't think the overall play was as one-sided as the shot count would have made you think, but the Bruins absolutely outplayed the Rangers in the first period. But again, they weren't able to take or hold a lead in the first period. And then the second period, I think, was a little bit more evened out, but to this point, the Bruins are still in a good spot. This is a very winnable game. You're on home ice. You're playing a pretty good team. You're going into the third period all tied up. All you need to do here is win the third period. 20 minutes of your best hockey, win the third period. That is what good teams do. That is what good teams do in this situation. They win the third period. They play 20 minutes of good hockey. That's all Boston needed to do here. What do they actually do? They come out and lay an absolute egg with one of their worst periods of the entire season. The Rangers score 3 unanswered goals in the third period and win this game 5-2. This was as frustrated as I have been with the Bruins in a long time in this third period. Artemi Panarin scores the third goal for New York to put them up 3-2. And it was all Rangers from that point on. Alexis Lafreniere gets one later in the third, puts the Rangers up 4-2, and the game was pretty much over at that point. But just for good measure, Jacob Trouba throws one in the empty net with less than a minute to go, and the Rangers skate away with the 5-2 victory. And again, this wasn't a game that was all bad for the Bruins by any means. They hung right in there with the Rangers, who are having a very, very good year. They hung right in there with them for 2 periods. It was a 2-2 game heading into the third. All they needed to do was have a good third period. And instead, what did they do? They completely fell flat on their faces. They get blown out in the third, give up 3 unanswered goals, and lose the game. Lose the game 5-2. And Brandon Carlo was -2 in this game. Derek Forbort was -2 in this game. Jakub Zaboral was -2 in this game. Eric Howla, Curtis Lazar were both -2. It's like just guys giving up, on the ice, not producing offensively and giving up goals. Look at all of the guys for the Bruins that were -2 did not have a point. So it's not like they were contributing offensively and then happened to be out there when goals were scored against. They didn't do anything this game. They didn't contribute or offensively or play well defensively. Jeremy Swayman in goal certainly wasn't his fault, but again, not his best performance that we've seen. He stopped 26 out of 30 shots and .867 save percentage. I wouldn't put this one on the goaltender. I don't think it was his fault, but he, didn't steal the game either. And, that's kind of been a reoccurring theme here with the Bruins this season, is that their goaltending is, it's okay, it's solid, it's average, but it's not good enough to steal games. And when the Bruins don't play really well in front of them, they're not getting goaltending that's able to steal those games that they're maybe not deserving to win, but can find a way to win anyway. We're not seeing that with this year's Bruins team. So, tough loss there on Black Friday in an afternoon game that you really would have liked to have seen the Bruins win, but a bad third period dooms them in that one. Then we move on to Sunday the 28th, where the Bruins had another home game, this time against the Vancouver Canucks. Vancouver stinks this year. Like, really, really stinks. So this should have been an easy win for the Boston Bruins. However, nothing is easy truly in the NHL. And the Bruins certainly didn't make this one easy either, as they squeak out a 3-2 win over the Canucks, largely thanks to their power play, who pretty much bailed them out. Their power play and Brad Marchand basically bailed them out in this game. Tons of shots on goal in this one as the Bruins slightly outshoot the Canucks 42-38. Lots of shots overall. Face-off percentage slightly in favor of Boston at 51%. However, the Bruins power play did go 2 for 3 in this game and really was the reason that they were able to win this one. They largely out-hit the Canucks 28-18, out-blocked the Canucks as well 12-11, and again, good puck management. Only 3 giveaways for the Bruins to Vancouver's 10. But again, it's not like they turned that into multiple goals or anything like that. So here's how it went. Tanner Pearson opens the scoring for Vancouver, putting them up 1-0 with a power play goal early in the first period. However, Anton Bleed was able to get the Bruins tied up with a goal shortly thereafter, just about a couple minutes later. He ties the game at 1 with his first goal of the season. And the Bruins and Canucks go to the intermission tied 1-1. In the second period, Massachusetts' own Connor Garland scores for Vancouver to give them a 2-1 lead, his 6th goal of the season. And Garland puts Vancouver on top, where that is the only scoring of the second. And Vancouver takes a 2-1 lead into the third period. However, this is where Boston's power play comes in and Brad Marchand to bail the Bruins out and allow them to pick up 2 points in this game. Brad Marchand scores a power play goal to tie this game. 8 minutes and 45 seconds into the third. Puts one home, 2-2 game, it's all tied up. And then for the game winner, it is David Pastrnak on the power play again, late in the third, assisted by Brad Marchand and Patrice Bergeron. Big goal there for Pasta as he gets the game winner, and the Bruins are able to hang on to that 3-2 lead and win this one, barely squeaking by the Canucks. And again, I want to say good Bruins here because they won the game, but man, this wasn't exactly a stellar game for the Bruins. It was more of them just, finding a way to win. And I mean, that is a good sign because the Bruins have not really had that find a way to win factor for a lot of this season. They haven't been able to squeak out those games, and this was one that they did. They just, even though they weren't bringing their A game, they weren't playing their best, they found a way to win this game. And that's a good sign because the Bruins need to do more of that. Now, unfortunately, a couple of notable things here happened during this game. Anton Bleed was injured, and Anton Bleed is now out for the Bruins. He missed the last game against Detroit, and he got injured in this game after obviously scoring the first goal. So that's not good as the Bruins lose a player there. And Brad Marchand was suspended for 3 games after this game for slew-footing Oliver Ekman-Larsson. And we're going to talk more about that later after we get through reviewing all of the games here. But yeah, so despite the Bruins getting the win, they lose a couple of players after this game, and that was not good for the Bruins. If we go through the box score, just how these guys did. Obviously, 2-assist game for Patrice Bergeron, goal and an assist for Brad Marchand. A couple other guys getting on the score sheet here. No defenseman with any points, though. And Linus Ullmark got the win in this one. Stopped 36 out of 38 shots. Obviously only gave up the 2 goals. .947 save percentage. And I will say this, Ullmark has been playing better of recent. I think he had a kind of a shaky start. But I think he's been playing a lot better his last few starts. I think he's starting to find his game again now. And that could be big for the Bruins if they can get Ullmark back to the level that he should be playing at. But that's another 2 points in the standings for Boston on the 28th. And then they have a home game to close out this 3-game homestand on November 30th, back on Tuesday. And this was a really frustrating one against the Detroit Red Wings. Really frustrating one against Detroit. We talk about the Bruins finding a way to win in the Vancouver game. This game was the Bruins finding a way to lose. 2-1 loss to the Detroit Red Wings, despite outshooting them 42-16. 42-16 shots on goal, and they still find a way to lose this game. They got beat in the face-off dot. Detroit won 52% of the draws. Bruins only 48. Boston did get a power play goal. That was their only goal of the game. They got it on the man advantage. They go 1 for 3 on the power play. They slightly out-hit the Red Wings 30-28. They only had 9 blocks to Detroit's 14. And this is maddening. This is absolutely maddening. The Bruins had 17 giveaways in this game. 17 giveaways. You are not going to win hockey games at the NHL level giving the puck away like that. I mean, it is so frustrating with this Bruins team because they're so much better than that. And when they play well, we can all see that they are so much better than that. 17 giveaways. Like, that is unacceptable. That is completely unacceptable. And, I don't know. The Bruins found a way to lose this game. They found a way to lose this game. Detroit only got 16 shots. They scored 2 goals, and those were the only 2 goals that they needed. The Bruins could not score. Despite 42 shots, they could only get 1 past Nedeljkovic, who did play very well in goal. However, I don't think there were a lot of what I would call quality scoring chances for the Bruins. A lot of their shots were not from high danger areas. A lot of their shots were from the outside. There wasn't nearly enough traffic in front of the net. Really not much for chances on rebounds and stuff like that. Just overall not good enough from the Bruins offensively. And Boston didn't even really play that bad defensively in this game. Obviously, they gave the puck away too much, but it was really their offense that let them down in this one. They got through the first period. There was no goals scored. It was 0-0 after 1. Then Filip Zadina gets a breakaway in the second period, and 5:03 into the period, he nets the first goal of the game, and Detroit goes up 1-0. Boston was still in okay position there. They were outplaying the Red Wings. All they had to do was, get some goals in the net. And they weren't able to do that. The second period ends. It's still a 1-0 Detroit lead. Then in the third period, David Pastrnak ties the game. He gets his 8th goal of the season on the power play. Beautiful pass from Taylor Hall. And the Bruins tied up at 1. And at that point, you were like, okay, all the Bruins have to do now is, win this period, score the next goal, and you win this game. And it won't be pretty, but at least it will be a win. And they just weren't able to do it. Mark Stahl, of all people, Mark Stahl scores for the Detroit Red Wings on a rebound goal later on in the third. They puts Detroit up 2-1, and the Red Wings are just able to hold that lead. They got great goaltending from Nedeljkovic. They cleared the puck out when they needed to, and they just held that lead, and they win it 2-1. Very, very frustrating loss for the Bruins. And when we go through here, I mean, I don't want to say there were a lot of guys that had horrible, horrible games, although Derek Forbort did not look good in this one. And I've been a big Forbort guy. I like him, but he had a really rough night in this Detroit game. A lot of turnovers from him. He's only listed as 2 giveaways, but if I'm being honest with you, I think that the statisticians was being nice to him. I feel like he had a lot more than 2 giveaways in that game. It was not a strong performance from him. I really don't think it was a very good performance from Matt Grzelcyk either. I really didn't notice him much in this game. Wasn't a huge fan. He played almost 23 minutes too, but he didn't do a lot. Like, he wasn't noticeable out there in this game. He was a -1. Obviously didn't have any points. Like, just not enough from a guy who's supposed to be one of your probably your second best offensive defenseman behind McAvoy, you got to get more offense from Grzelcyk. And this was another one where I just don't think he was doing enough offensively to drive the play and get himself involved in the team's offense. And it wasn't just him. It was a lot of Bruins here just not good enough offensively. And all of these zeros on the point sheet shows it. I mean, other than the power play goal, they didn't get anything going really as far as actually putting the puck in the net. Obviously, they had 42 shots on goal. They were getting shots. They were getting the puck in on Nedeljkovic, but again, not a lot of high-quality shots, not a lot of high-danger opportunities, and just overall not good enough to win this game. And really, this was one that the Bruins found a way to lose. This was very, very frustrating. Between this and the Rangers game, been very, very frustrated recently with the Bruins, but that is their recent schedule. I am recording this on Thursday, so they play Nashville tonight. By the time that you guys all see this episode on Friday, this Nashville game will be over and will have happened, obviously. So we'll see what they're able to do on the road in Nashville, but the Predators have been playing pretty well recently. I'm not super optimistic for the Bruins going into this game, to be honest with you. I'll be very, very pleasantly surprised if they are able to pick up a win here in Nashville, but the Preds are coming off a 6-0 smashing of the Columbus Blue Jackets, and Nashville's been pretty good at home this year, so I'm not overly optimistic about the Bruins' chances, but maybe they'll surprise me. Maybe they'll surprise me and make me happy tonight on Thursday. But we'll look at the upcoming schedule for the Bruins here later in the show. Right now, I want to talk about two very, very big, notable stories going on with the Bruins right now. And the first one being Brad Marchand, as he will not be playing tonight in Nashville. He did not play in the last game against the Detroit Red Wings, and he will also, unfortunately, be missing the Bruins game on Saturday as well against the Tampa Bay Lightning, which that is going to be a huge game for Boston. And they won't have Brad Marchand for that one either, because Brad Marchand was suspended for 3 games by the NHL for slew-footing Oliver Ekman-Larsson back during the Bruins game against the Vancouver Canucks. And, all right, there's a lot of different things I want to touch on here, so I'm trying to think of how, what order to do this in. But, first of all, was it a slew foot? Yes. It was not a smart play from Brad Marchand. It was not a good play from Brad Marchand. As long as you watch it, there's Bruins fans out there trying to say that he didn't slew foot him or that he didn't do anything wrong. I'm sorry, it was a slew foot. You can literally see by the picture that he had his legs stuck out behind Oliver Ekman-Larsson's legs, and he pulled Larsson back over his leg, kind of came up from under him and pulled him back over his leg. That is a slew foot. That is dirty. It is not a legal play. It is not a smart thing to do. And honestly, if somebody did that to me when I was playing, I'd be pretty ticked off and I'd probably want to throw hands with him. Like, that is not a good play in hockey. And it wasn't a smart move from Marchand. He had the legs stuck out. It would have been a fine play if he didn't have the legs stuck out. But as soon as you get your leg out behind the guy like that, it makes it really obvious. So I'm not mad that Marchand was suspended because it was a slew foot. However, I was not expecting 3 games. I thought it was going to be 1, maybe 2 games, but I was not expecting 3. That was definitely a longer suspension than I was anticipating. And I'm really kind of wondering how the league decided, or not the league per se, but more the Department of Player Safety, decided on 3 games because, well, Kevin Labanc got suspended for slew footing earlier this season. It was only a 1-game suspension, so Labanc only got 1 game for it. And Brad Marchand, under the terms of the collective bargaining agreement, is not a repeat offender because it had been so long since his last suspension. So his previous history should not have been allowed to be a determining factor in this suspension. Because under the current CBA, after, I forget the exact time frame, I think it's like 18 months or it might be 2 years, but when a player goes a certain amount of time, and I don't remember exactly what that certain amount of time is, I think it's somewhere like around 18 months to 2 years, somewhere in there. But anyway, the point is that Marchand had gone more than long enough since his last suspension to not be considered a repeat offender under the collective bargaining agreement. So that would mean that the Department of Player Safety cannot use his past reputation and his past suspensions in their determination for a current suspension right now, because he wasn't a repeat offender. So how they got 3 games for this is absolutely beyond me. Also, Oliver Ekman-Larsson was not hurt on the play. Like, he got right back up and kept playing, and he was fine. He played the rest of the game. There was no injury on the play. Usually suspensions are longer when it results in an injury, and if it doesn't, you only get, like a 1 or 2 game shorter suspension. So I'm really confused as to why Marchand got 3 games for this when LeBanc did it earlier in the season and only got 1 game. And this is really going to set me off, Marchand is getting suspended 3 games for this, while PK Subban of the New Jersey Devils has done this multiple times, at least 3 or 4 times already this season, and has not been suspended at all. This is really what drives me crazy, is the complete inconsistency here from the Department of Player Safety, because PK Subban has been slew-footing guys all season long, going all the way back to the preseason. He's done it 3 or 4 times already this year, and all he has gotten is a fine. So he gets to do it multiple times this season, with at least 2 of them resulting in injuries, and he does not get suspended. But Brad Marchand does it once, and it does not result in an injury, and he gets suspended for 3 games? How does that make any sense? The complete inconsistency here is absolutely ridiculous. And the fact that Subban has gotten away with it so many times this season, where he's literally kicked the back of guys' skates out with his foot and isn't getting punished for, other than a small fine that I'm sure he really doesn't care about making the money that he is making, I don't understand it at all. So, again, I'm not trying to be a homer here. I'm not trying to say that Marchand didn't do anything wrong or that he shouldn't have been suspended, because it was a slew foot. Marchand stuck his leg out and pulled Ekman-Larsson back over his stuck-out leg. That is a slew foot. It is not a smart play. It is a dirty play. But the fact that he got suspended 3 games while PK Subban has done it multiple times this season and hasn't gotten suspended at all is absolutely ridiculous. And I don't understand the inconsistency here, how one player is getting treated so differently than another player for the exact same penalty. It's the exact same penalty. They're doing virtually the same things. And one guy is getting suspended for 3 games. The other guy is getting a minimal fine. And that is what really drives me up a wall about it. But at the end of the day, there's nothing you can do about it. The decision is made. Marchand's going to miss 3 games. It is what it is. The Bruins are going to have to find a way to win without him. And they were not able to do that against the Red Wings on Tuesday night. We're going to see what they can do on Thursday against the Predators. And we'll see what happens against Tampa Bay on Saturday, but I'm a little worried about that game, given that the Bruins aren't going to have Marchand for that one, and they're playing an extremely good Lightning team on Saturday. That's going to be tough. But again, you can't make excuses if you're the Bruins, despite how much you disagree with the ruling. You can't make excuses for it. And you got to try to find a way to win some games without Brad Marchand, which, as your best offensive player, is going to be pretty difficult to do. But that's what good teams are able to do. They overcome adversity, and we'll see what the Bruins are able to do here. But just really, the biggest thing that's making me mad about this whole thing with Marchand is the inconsistency, not the fact that he was suspended. It's more that he got suspended for the length of time that he did, while other players who have done this aren't getting suspended at all. It just doesn't make any sense to me. The other big story going on right now is obviously Jake DeBrusk. So Jake DeBrusk has officially requested a trade. Bruins management, Cam Neely and Don Sweeney have come right out and openly put it out there that Jake DeBrusk has asked the team for a trade and that the Bruins said that they are going to do what they can to try and accommodate him and get him moved somewhere else. And apparently there's a lot of teams interested because reports were first saying that there were up to 8 teams interested in Jake DeBrusk, and now recent reports have said 12 teams have contacted the Bruins about possibly putting a deal together for Jake DeBrusk here. So it does look likely that at some point he is going to be moved. He's in the last year of his current contract. He is having yet again another horrendous season for Boston. No production whatsoever, only 3 goals on the year after having 5 all of last year. Effort level extremely low. I don't want to rail into the kid too badly because he actually kind of started the season pretty decently, but he's gone right back to the Jake DeBrusk of last year over the past, I want to say, like three weeks. He's gone right back to the Jake DeBrusk of last year. Performance against the Red Wings on Tuesday was abysmal. Had 1 good shift at the beginning of the game, maybe 2. His first couple of shifts weren't bad, and he just mailed it in. Absolutely mailed it in after that. It was honestly pretty embarrassing. It was Pierre-Luc Dubois level of don't care for most of that game. If you remember Pierre-Luc Dubois' last game with the Columbus Blue Jackets before he got traded to Winnipeg, where he ended up getting benched and it was just an absolute nightmare. He had no effort whatsoever. That was Jake DeBrusk on Tuesday night. Again, 1, maybe 2 good shifts at the beginning of the game and absolutely mailed it in after that. Wanted no business being there, didn't want to be on the ice, didn't want to play, and was absolutely a complete no-show for the rest of the game. And Jake DeBrusk, unfortunately, has been a no-show on the score sheet for most of this season, just like he was last year. And again, I mean, you guys who have watched the show and have been following this show over the last season and into this year, know that I have soured on Jake DeBrusk greatly over these last, year plus. I was a huge Jake DeBrusk fan, back in like 2019 and really liked the kid a lot, wanted to see him become a 30-goal scorer, thought he had the talent to be a 30-goal scorer, and he's just completely fallen flat on his face. I don't know. I mean, some of it I'm sure might be the coaching or the team. Maybe he's not in the best position to win, but a lot of it falls on him as well. His effort level has decreased over the last 2 years, really. His production has fallen off an absolute cliff. I was more than ready to get rid of Jake DeBrusk last year. I wanted him gone. I certainly wanted him gone this offseason. A lot of other Bruins fans have wanted, to be more patient with him because they know the potential upside that he does have. But I can tell you this right now. Jake DeBrusk, whatever potential upside he has still, is not going to be found in a Boston Bruins uniform. Whatever heights he can reach in his career will not be reached here in a Boston Bruins uniform. He is done as a Bruin. Like, this guy is never going to be a productive player. Maybe a change of scenery will do him good. Maybe if the Bruins do trade him, he'll get his career back on track somewhere else. I still wish the best for the kid. I got nothing against him personally, but he will not play well again in a Bruins uniform. And I think a deal needs to be made. I think he does need to be moved. And at this point, I'm really not going to be picky about what the Bruins get back in return. Getting anything in return is going to be more productive than what Jake DeBrusk has been over the last year plus. And at this point, it's just time to move on. It's time to move on, get him in a new situation where maybe he can turn things around and hopefully get a more productive player in Jake DeBrusk's spot in the lineup than what DeBrusk has been here recently, because it's not good, and the effort level is decreasing, and I think it's ready to go. He's ready to go, and it's just time to go in a different direction here. So I want DeBrusk out of here. I wanted him out last year. Some Bruins fans and some of my BNG colleagues here have, been talked about being more patient and trying to give him another chance, and they even kind of talked me into hoping to give him another chance too. But I think his lack of production again this year, at this point, I am done. You cannot talk me into giving Jake DeBrusk any more chances. I am absolutely done with him. This was a chance for him to have a bounce back year. This was a chance for him to get back to being a productive player, getting on the score sheet, putting some points on the board, and he has 3 goals. When Derek Forbert has more goals than you, there is a problem. And he has 3 goals. So I'm just done with Jake DeBrusk, and I am ready to move on. I am ready to get him traded, and whatever the Bruins get in return, I don't know what the market is for him right now. I can't imagine that his value is super high, but if you have 12 teams calling, then there obviously is some interest around the league. And there are probably some other teams that think that they can, turn things around for him, that they can be the opportunity that gets him back on track, the lineup that makes him a solid scorer again. And good luck to him. Good luck to him. Go for it. Make the deal. Take him, and if he does well, cool. If not, I won't be surprised. And again, it's nothing against him personally, but as a hockey player and from a hockey standpoint, he needs to be gone from the Boston Bruins lineup. He is not a productive piece here. He is not in any way making the Boston Bruins better, and it's time to move on. And wishing him all the best, but I hope he is traded here very, very quickly. And I'm just completely done with Jake DeBrusk, and completely checked out. The way that DeBrusk was checked out on Tuesday night, that's how I am now as a fan watching the Bruins. I'm checked out on Jake DeBrusk wearing a Bruins uniform. All set, good, see you later. Just like DeBrusk was on Tuesday. Didn't want to be out there, didn't want to play, no effort, goodbye, see you later. That's how I feel about him right now. So we'll see if a deal gets done here anytime soon. Obviously, reports are saying that there's good interest, and hopefully something gets done, because I honestly am all set seeing him wear a Bruins uniform. It's time to move on. But that's obviously a huge story. And we'll see what happens the rest of the way. But Jake DeBrusk formally requesting a trade, and I think it needs to happen. He needs to be moved, and this whole thing just needs to be over and done with. Finally, now we are going to take a look at the Bruins' upcoming schedule here, and it is not an easy one. It is not an easy one whatsoever. So I am recording this on Thursday the 2nd. They play against the Nashville Predators tonight in Nashville. Predators are having a better season than I was expecting. They're also a very good team at home. This is going to be a tough one for the Bruins on the road, especially without Brad Marchand. We'll see what the offense is able to do. Hopefully they can muster more than 1 goal like they did on Tuesday against Detroit, where they only scored once. They're going to need more offense than that. And I don't know. Like I said earlier, I am not super optimistic about the Bruins' chances in this one, but maybe they'll surprise me with a big win. And it would be a much-needed win, as the Bruins are only a little bit above 500 right now, 11-8 on the season. Out of a playoff spot currently. Boston needs every point that they can get. So, I don't know. This is a big game, and it would be a huge win if they were able to get it. But if not, Boston's going to be 11-9 and only 2 games above 500. That is going to be a problem. as they, try to get into the playoffs this year. I'm honestly becoming increasingly worried about the Bruins not even making the playoffs this year. I think at this point, it is a very real possibility that the Bruins don't even make the playoffs this year. With the way that they're playing and just the overall mediocrity of how they've been this season, I am worried about them not making the playoffs. Obviously, there's still a long way to go, but there hasn't been a lot that I've got me super excited so far. The goaltending is average. The defense is downright bad at times. The secondary scoring isn't improved the way I thought it was going to be. Not a lot to be excited about. I mean, it's going to be a dogfight for the Bruins to make the postseason this year. We'll have to see what happens the rest of the way, but that's going to be a tough game against Nashville tonight. And obviously, by the time you guys see this on Friday, we'll know whether or not the Bruins were able to take this win or not. Coming up on Saturday, the Bruins are back home against the Tampa Bay Lightning. Big matchup against one of their biggest rivals on Saturday night. Atlantic Division game, first meeting of the season, and first meeting since the 2020 playoffs. Because the Bruins and Lightning did not play at all last season because Tampa Bay got moved to the Central Division and you only had interdivisional play. They didn't meet in the playoffs in 2021. So this is the first meeting in a long time between the Bruins and the Lightning. We'll see if the rivalry picks right up where it left off or if there's a little bit more of a reigniting that needs to happen. But if you go back to before last season, this was one of the hottest rivalries in the NHL, and the Bruins and Lightning were a lot of fun to watch. We'll see if that continues here this season as they play for the first time on Saturday. Again, the Bruins will be without Brad Marchand for this game, so that is a huge loss, as Marchand, serving the final game of his suspension, will not be there against Tampa Bay. And man, that is going to be a tough one as the Lightning are having a pretty strong season so far this year. Certainly better season than the Bruins are having. And I don't know, that's going to be a tough game. This is a tough stretch here for Boston. After the Lightning game, they have 3 days off, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. And then they go on a long road trip out to Western Canada for the rest of next week. They play Vancouver on Wednesday night at 8 p.m. or 9 p.m. Excuse me, it's the 8th, 9 p.m. start time. They are in Vancouver for that one. It is a rematch from these two teams who played last Sunday. Bruins beat the Canucks back on the 28th, 3-2. Vancouver's going to have a chance at some revenge here in this one. Also, that'll be the first game back for Brad Marchand. So, it's funny. Marchand gets suspended for a slew foot that happened in the game against the Canucks. His first game back will be against the Canucks. And it will be interesting to see if anybody on Vancouver tries to engage Brad Marchand and, get him to drop the gloves or go after him or try and, get some revenge for what happened in the earlier meeting. But that one is in Vancouver on Wednesday. Vancouver is not very good this year. The Bruins should win this game. But again, in the NHL, there's no guarantees. And especially with the way that the Bruins have been so up and down this season, if the bad Bruins team shows up to that game, that might not be the win that we're expecting it to be. And I don't know. This road trip is going to be very telling of where the Bruins are at this year right now because they have a back-to-back game. They have to go on Thursday night against the Edmonton Oilers, also a 9 p.m. start time. So back-to-back games in Western Canada, Vancouver on Wednesday, Edmonton on Thursday. And this is another really tough matchup here for the Bruins. The Oilers have already beaten Boston once this season, and Edmonton is a wagon this year, playing extremely well. One of the top teams in the Western Conference. McDavid and Draisaitl absolutely lighting it up this year. Oilers, we'll pull up the standings quick here to just take a look at how good they are. Yeah, Edmonton leads the Pacific Division with a 16-5 record. 16-5 for the Oilers. So obviously in Edmonton, who are also 9-1-0 at home. So a dominant home team on a 3-game winning streak as of right now. Edmonton is a juggernaut this year. This is not going to be an easy game. One of the best teams in the division and in the entire league. So, yeah, that's not going to be a fun one on Thursday night. The Bruins are going to have to bring their A game to that one to even have a shot. Otherwise, the Oilers might just wipe the floor with them. They're going to have to really show up for that one. And it's the second half of a back-to-back as well, which, yikes, that's not going to be an easy night for the Bruins. We'll see what happens. Hopefully they can bring their A game and at least make it close, but really tough matchup there for Boston. And then on Saturday the 11th, they close out the road trip against the Calgary Flames at 10 p.m. Saturday night the 11th. And if we look here at the Pacific Division, who is right behind Edmonton, 1 point behind them in the standings? Well, it's the Calgary Flames, who are 13-4-5 on the season. They also have already beaten the Bruins once this year. Back in Boston, they won that game 4-0. And really, really tough matchup again for the Bruins against the Flames in that one on Saturday night. So this is a really, really difficult stretch here for the Bruins over these next couple of weeks. I mean, they're at Nashville, which is a very tough game. They're home against Tampa Bay, which is a very tough game. They're at Vancouver, which should be an easier game than the other ones. And Vancouver is a very beatable team. But Bruins haven't made anything easy so far, except for beating the Buffalo Sabres. That's like the only team that they've made look easy so far is Buffalo. But hopefully they can win that game against Vancouver, because they have a very difficult game the next night against the Oilers. And then they have the Flames and another extremely difficult game on Saturday night the 11th. So this is a really, really tough stretch here for Boston. And to be completely honest with you, I am worried. I am worried about these next 2 weeks here, because Boston could go below 500. Like if they lose to Nashville, if they lose to Tampa Bay, they're at 11-10. Then maybe they beat Vancouver. Okay, they're at 12-10. Then they could lose to Edmonton and lose to Calgary. They're at 12-12. So okay, not below 500 if they do that, but they'd be 12-12. They'd be a 500 team after this stretch if they, really aren't able to steal a win in any of these really tough games that they have. And my other issue with the Bruins is that they've really struggled against good opponents this year. Like Boston, for the most part, have beaten the teams that they are supposed to beat. And they've beaten the teams like Buffalo. They've beaten the teams like Vancouver. They've beaten the teams like Philadelphia. If we go back, to the month of November, they beat Montreal. They beat New Jersey. Like they beat the teams that they were supposed to beat for the most part. They beat Ottawa. But when they played tough opponents, they lost to Toronto. They lost to Edmonton. They lost to Calgary. They lost to the Rangers. When they've played tough opponents, they've really, really struggled. They've beaten the bad teams that they should beat, but they've really struggled against quality opponents. And 4 out of these next 5 games are really good quality opponents. Nashville, Tampa Bay, Edmonton, and Calgary are all really good quality opponents. And Boston has struggled against those teams this year. So I'm honestly worried about these next 2 weeks, because I think Boston, after this Calgary game, could be a 12-12 team that is at 500 and definitely out of a playoff spot at that point. Definitely out of a playoff spot. And this is a really tough stretch. This is a really, really tough stretch. But we'll see what they're able to do. maybe they're able to surprise me. Maybe they're able to steal some wins. I mean, if they can beat Nashville, maybe win one of the games either against Edmonton or Calgary, beat the Canucks like they're supposed to, all of a sudden they're 3-2 over this 5-game stretch. Hell, if they can go 3-2 over these next 5 games, I will be happy. I would be ecstatic with a 3-2 record over these next 5 games. Absolutely ecstatic with it. That'd be a win for the Bruins, because then they can get back home. They can play a struggling Vegas team who is definitely beatable this year. They can play the Islanders, who are having a really tough year. They've got some winnable games after this stretch of these next 5. So if they can come out of these next 5 games 3-2, I will be happy. I'm worried about them going 1-4. I'm really worried about them going 1-4, and that'd be a tough spot to be in for Boston. But we're just going to have to wait and see how it goes. But they've got some really quality opponents coming up, and they are going to have to bring their A game. We need to see the good Boston Bruins in some of these games, because if we see the bad Boston Bruins, they're going to get blown out, and it is not going to be pretty. But all in all, I mean, it's the inconsistency, and the roller coaster season continues for the Bruins. It's the same thing that we've been saying all year long. They're 11-8-0 right now. They're not currently in a playoff spot, and this year continues to be a complete roller coaster. Some games, this team looks like a contender. In other games, this team looks like they're not even going to make the playoffs, and it's really all about which Bruins team shows up that night. And until we see more consistency, I'm going to be worried about this Bruins team, because it is not going to be easy to make the playoffs this year. The Eastern Conference has a lot of very good teams, and if they're not able to consistently win games and put some winning streaks together, I'm worried about Boston not even making the postseason. They have got to start to put some winning streaks together and stop this up and down, up and down, up and down. They got to ride up here for a while. They got to win 4 or 5 in a row, accumulate some points, rise in the standings a little bit. They got to put some wins together. And this next upcoming stretch is not going to be easy to put some wins together, because they have 4 really good opponents in their next 5 games. And we're going to have to wait and see how it goes. But that is going to bring us now to the end of episode 45. Thank you guys all so much for watching. We are now into December. And again, the biggest thing, like I've been saying all season long, is I just want to see some consistency from the Bruins. I want to see the good Bruins show up for not just 1 or 2 games in a row, but 4, 5, 6 games in a row. I want to see the good contending Bruins team show up night after night after night, not just in little spurts. And that's, again, been one of my biggest issues with the Bruins this season, is how inconsistent they have been. But thank you guys so much for watching. Again, I want to give a big thank you to Black and Gold Productions, Mark Allred, and the entire team at B&G. This show would not be happening without them. So a big thank you to them for all of their support. Make sure to check out blackandgoldhockey.com. All the B&G writers put their work out on blackandgoldhockey.com. Articles coming out each and every day about the Bruins. You can check out all their work, as well as the great podcast network on B&G. Great shows, all Bruins centric. And a lot of fun to listen to, so check out all the podcasters there as well. Want to draw your attention again to the links in the description with the holiday season coming up, and gifts to be given out as we get towards into the holidays here. We got Boston Bruins apparel, NHL apparel from all teams, and NCAA apparel. You guys can check it all out using the links in the description. It would be greatly appreciated. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed the show. This was episode 45. I'll be back next week with episode 46. Can't thank you guys enough for all the support. Hope you have a great weekend. Go Bruins. Hopefully they can put some wins together here. And we'll have plenty more to talk about next week with a whole other week of action under our belts. But with that, have a great week, everybody, and talk to you soon.